Do you wonder if your intelligence creates your future? Meet Jamie, a bright and inquisitive high school student with a passion for learning and a supportive friend named Joe. One sunny afternoon, while sitting in the lively school cafeteria filled with the chatter of students and the aroma of freshly baked sandwiches, Jamie turned to Joe with a thoughtful expression. Joe, do you think our intelligence determines everything about our lives? Jamie asked, poking at his salad with a fork. Joe shrugged, munching on his sandwich. I don't know, Jamie. I mean, being smart helps, but there's got to be more to it, right? Intrigued by the question and eager to find answers, Jamie decided to seek out the truth about intelligence. Determined to understand more, Jamie headed to the school library, a haven of knowledge where rows of old books and journals held secrets of the past. He started his search and found out that in the early 20th century, French psychologist Alfred Binet developed one of the first IQ tests. Binet designed these tests to identify students who needed extra help in school, creating a standardized way to measure intelligence by comparing a child's mental age to their chronological age. Look at this, Joe, Jamie called out, holding up a dusty book. Alfred Binet created the first IQ test to help educators understand how French kindergartners learn differently. Joe leaned in to read the passage. So, they thought intelligence was just one thing? Exactly, Jamie replied. But over the years, researchers debated whether intelligence was just the G factor, a general ability, or made up of many skills. For instance, Howard Gardner introduced the idea of multiple intelligences, like musical and spatial intelligence. Robert Sternberg added the Triarchic theory of intelligence, which includes analytical, creative, and practical intelligence. And there's emotional intelligence, which is all about understanding and managing emotions. Additionally, Jacqueline Jacobs developed the theory of dynamic intelligence, focusing on how intelligence changes over time with experiences. And Raymond Cattell's fluid and crystallized intelligence, distinguishing between the ability to solve new problems and use of learned knowledge. Robert Sternberg's successive cycles theory explores how intelligence evolves through different stages of life. Joe looked impressed. Wow, so intelligence is more complex than just a single number. Eager to learn more, Jamie and Joe sat down with Mrs. Thompson, their favorite psychology teacher, during lunch. Jamie began, Mrs. Thompson, how do they make sure these IQ tests are accurate? Mrs. Thompson smiled warmly. Great question, Jamie. Intelligence tests must follow strict rules to ensure they're fair and reliable. A good test is standardized, meaning everyone takes it the same way under similar conditions. It must also be valid, so it truly measures what it's supposed to. There are types of validity like construct validity, which checks if the test covers all parts of intelligence, and predictive validity, which sees if the test can forecast future success. Joe nodded thoughtfully. And what about reliability? Reliability means the test gives the same results every time, Jamie explained. It includes test-retest reliability, where the same test gives similar scores over time, and split-half reliability, which ensures different parts of the test agree with each other. They also use item analysis to examine each question's effectiveness, and factor analysis to see how questions group together to measure different abilities. Norming compares test results to a standard group, and the standard error of measurement shows how much scores might vary. Advanced methods like item response theory, IRT, and adaptive testing adjust questions based on previous answers to make tests more accurate. Plus, test fairness audits and bias detection methodologies ensure tests are free from unfair advantages or disadvantages for any group. Test security, administration protocols, and scoring procedures are also crucial to maintain the integrity of IQ tests. Joe raised an eyebrow. That sounds like a lot to keep things fair. It is, Jamie agreed. All these principles work together to make sure that IQ tests are as fair and accurate as possible. But intelligence isn't just one thing, Jamie thought. To explain, he pulled out a small toolbox he had brought for an analogy. Think of it like this. If intelligence was a single tool, like a hammer, it wouldn't help with everything. But with many tools, like a screwdriver and pliers, you can handle different jobs. Similarly, people have various skills that make up their intelligence. Joe laughed. I like that. It makes sense. As Jamie and Joe continued their research, they came across the Flynn Effect. I also discovered something called the Flynn Effect, Jamie shared one evening while they were studying together at Jamie's home. Over time, IQ scores have gone up worldwide. This happens because of better education, healthcare, and nutrition. It shows that intelligence can grow with the right conditions. Joe looked intrigued. But does that mean IQ isn't fixed? Yes, Jamie replied. Additionally, IQ scores can be affected by where you live and your background. Issues like poverty and discrimination can lower intelligence scores, not because someone is less smart, but because they believe they don't have the same chances. Determined to understand more, Jamie sought out Mrs. Thompson again. Can you explain systemic issues and sociocultural factors related to intelligence? Mrs. Thompson nodded thoughtfully. Of course, stereotype threat happens when people worry about confirming a negative stereotype about their group, which can hurt their performance on IQ tests. On the other hand, stereotype lift can boost someone's performance when they feel their group is seen positively. Joe chimed in. What about implicit bias and cultural bias? Implicit bias is when people unconsciously favor one group over another, affecting how tests are given and scored. Cultural bias in testing means some questions might favor people from certain backgrounds, making the tests unfair for others. Confirmation bias occurs when people look for information that supports their beliefs about intelligence, ignoring other evidence. Intersectionality examines how different aspects of a person's identity, like race and gender, combine to impact their experiences and intelligence measurements. Joe nodded. So, researchers are trying to create socio-culturally responsive assessments to make tests fairer for everyone? Exactly, Miss Thompson affirmed. They consider different backgrounds and experiences to reduce bias and ensure fairness. Later that week, Jamie attended a seminar on academic achievement presented by Dr. Ramirez, a renowned psychologist. The auditorium was filled with students eager to learn. Dr. Ramirez explained. Achievement tests measure what you know, like math or history, while aptitude tests predict how you might perform in the future. Academic achievement is shown through grades, honors, awards, and participation in extracurricular activities, leadership roles, and community service. Jamie reflected on this. So, academic achievement is different from intelligence, but they're related. Yes, Dr. Ramirez replied. People's beliefs about intelligence also matter. Those with a fixed mindset think intelligence is set from birth, while those with a growth mindset believe it can grow with effort and learning. This belief can significantly affect how well students do in school. Determined to see how genetics play a role, Jamie researched the Minnesota twin study. He found that this study compared identical twins raised apart and revealed that intelligence is about 60% genetic. The remaining 40% is influenced by the environment, such as education, family support, and life experiences. This balance between nature and nurture explains why intelligence can vary, even among people with similar genetic backgrounds. Joe, did you know that genetics account for about 60% of our intelligence? Jamie asked during a study session. Joe looked surprised. I didn't realize it was that much, but the environment still matters a lot, right? Absolutely, Jamie confirmed. The study shows that while genetics play a significant role, the environment is almost equally important in shaping our intelligence. Jamie's exploration didn't stop there. He learned about haplogroups, which are groups of similar DNA sequences related to genetics and intelligence, which spread much further than some people might assume. This led him to studies of haplogroups raised outside of their cultures. Jamie explained to Joe, while some studies suggest genetic factors influence intelligence, it's clear that the environment plays a significant role. Adoption also shows how both genetics and environment shape intelligence. Children adopted into supportive and resource-rich families often show improvements in IQ scores, highlighting the importance of nurture alongside nature. During a heartfelt conversation, Jamie shared, adopted immigrants often face unique challenges as they adapt to new cultures and environments. Supportive adoption environments can help overcome disadvantages that might come from being an immigrant, impacting their intelligence scores and opportunities. Joe nodded thoughtfully. So, both adoption and immigration policies influence intelligence and academic success. As Jamie explored history further, he uncovered the grim misuse of intelligence testing in eugenics movements. During the early 20th century, these tests were employed to justify the sterilization of individuals deemed unfit, disproportionately targeting marginalized communities based on flawed and biased assessments. This is horrifying, Jamie said to Mrs. Thompson. It's terrible how something meant to measure intelligence was used to oppress people. Mrs. Thompson sighed. Yes, it's a dark chapter in history. It highlights the importance of ensuring that intelligence tests are fair, unbiased, and used ethically. Misusing these tests can lead to devastating social consequences. Jamie also researched specific job sectors and military roles that rely heavily on IQ scores. In information technology, roles like software developers and cybersecurity analysts require high IQ levels to solve complex problems and think critically. In biotechnology, positions such as geneticists and biomedical engineers demand strong analytical and technical skills. Within the military, specialized roles like cyber operations, strategic planning, intelligence analysis, and logistics coordination necessitate high IQ scores to handle sensitive information and make quick, informed decisions. Jamie found stories of soldiers who excelled in these roles due to their cognitive abilities, demonstrating the diverse applications of intelligence assessments. Jamie's research led him to explore educational inequities in greater depth. He discovered that funding disparities between schools create significant gaps in resources. Schools in affluent areas often have access to advanced courses, modern technology, and well-maintained facilities, while schools in low-income areas struggle with overcrowded classrooms, outdated materials, and underqualified teachers. Jamie read about initiatives aimed at reducing these inequities, such as grants for technology upgrades, mentorship programs for underprivileged students, and policies to ensure equitable funding distribution. He also learned about the impact of standardized testing policies that sometimes fail to account for diverse learning styles and backgrounds, further disadvantaging certain student populations. To make the concepts more relatable, Jamie incorporated real-life examples into his research. He learned about Albert Einstein, who exemplifies analytical intelligence, and Ludwig van Beethoven, showcasing musical intelligence. He also studied Malala Yousafzai, whose perseverance in education highlights the impact of a growth mindset despite facing extreme adversity. Jamie shared these stories with Joe, saying, "Look at Einstein and Beethoven. They each excelled in different areas of intelligence. Then there's Malala, who shows how determination and a supportive environment can help you overcome challenges." Joe smiled. "Those are inspiring stories. It shows that intelligence isn't just about one thing, but how you use your talents and persist through difficulties." Throughout his path, Jamie faced personal struggles and moments of self-doubt. He grappled with feelings of inadequacy when comparing himself to others and worried about meeting societal expectations. However, through supportive conversations with Joe and Mrs. Thompson, Jamie embraced a growth mindset, recognizing that his intelligence could be developed through effort and perseverance. One evening, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of his discoveries, Jamie confided in Joe, "Sometimes I feel like no matter how hard I try, I'm not smart enough compared to others." Joe placed a reassuring hand on Jamie's shoulder. "I get that feeling, but remember what we've learned. Intelligence is complex, and your efforts are making a difference. We all have unique strengths." Jamie felt a surge of hope. "You're right. It's not about being the smartest, but about evolving. We're all going to make it." Jamie's vivid descriptions brought the stories of his research to life. School library was a sanctuary of knowledge, with tall shelves packed with books, quiet study areas illuminated by soft lighting, and old wooden tables where students pored over their studies. In contrast, historical intelligence test environments, like the Army Alpha and Beta tests during World War I, were stark and regimented, with rows of soldiers sitting in rigid formations under strict supervision. Jamie shared these visualizations with Joe, saying, "Imagine those old military testing rooms, quiet, intense, and filled with pressure. It's so different from our relaxed library." Joe could almost visualize it. "Yeah, that must have been really stressful for them." As he moved past the drama of his historical research, Jamie realized that socioeconomic factors have a profound impact on intelligence and academic achievement. He learned that community cohesion, access to recreational facilities, and the availability of mentorship programs play crucial roles in shaping an individual's intelligence and opportunities. For example, in communities with strong cohesion, students have better access to supportive networks and resources. Recreational facilities provide spaces for physical activity, which is linked to cognitive function, while mentorship programs offer guidance and encouragement, fostering a growth mindset. Jamie reflected on his own community, recognizing how access to a local community center and after-school programs had benefited many of his peers, providing both academic support and emotional resilience. Jamie examined the intersection of adoption and immigration, understanding that adopted immigrants face unique challenges. Integrating into a new culture while adapting to a new family environment can impact their intelligence scores and academic opportunities. Jamie read about individuals who, despite facing language barriers and cultural adjustments, thrived academically with the support of their adoptive families and communities. That reminded him of his friend Joe, who was adopted from Russia. To support adopted immigrants means you provide resources for cultural integration and educational support. Jamie explained to Joe, "I feel like your mom and dad created an environment where you can use your inherited traits and new experiences to enhance your intelligence and academic success. I hope we can do that for every immigrant to our country." Feeling a mix of emotions, Jamie reflected on Joe's path and his own path. He was amazed by how complex intelligence truly is and how many factors influence it. There were times of frustration, especially when thinking about educational inequities, like funding disparities, the digital divide, and differences in teacher quality. But there was also hope, seeing how supportive environments and fair testing methods can make a difference. One day, Jamie and Joe stood outside the school, watching the sunset paint the sky with vibrant colors. Jamie looked thoughtful and turned to Joe. "I know this might seem like an odd question, but have you ever felt pressure from stereotypes affecting your performance?" Jamie asked, recalling their earlier discussions. Joe pondered for a moment. "Yeah, sometimes I worry about what others expect from me based on where I come from or how I look. Extra awkward now because I can't really go to where I'm from to find out more details. I'm just going to do my best to take advantage of my environment. People care for me here, and people did their to send me here." Jamie nodded. "It's inspirational they sent you here. Reminds me to be grateful about where I'm from. They really cared about the environment you grew up in. It makes you think about how our beliefs about intelligence influence our family and academic efforts. How do we create an environment for ourselves and others to be our smartest?" Joe smiled. "Maybe by encouraging each other, sharing resources, and challenging negative stereotypes whenever we encounter them." Jamie felt a sense of accomplishment. Exactly. Our future isn't defined by a single number, but by what we can do and the effort we put into doing it. Our future is how we evolve. Through his path, Jamie understood that intelligence is a complex concept influenced by genetics, environment, education, and sociocultural factors. Academic achievement measures what you know and how you apply your intelligence, but your future is shaped by a combination of your unique talents, continuous learning, and the support you receive. Do you wonder if your intelligence creates your future? Now, Jamie knows it doesn't. It's what you do with your intelligence that matters most.